Dan Rubenstein.
Yo!
The national media will tell you that this is not a good week for college football.
Yeah.
We're down here, man, in the caves. We're down here in the underground. We're flipping on the headlamps, exploring the wondrous caves for precious college football gems within. I wanted to go with Spelunker Saturday, but you decided that you had a better name for it.
Well, stalactite, not stalactite just takes it one step further, right? Hanging down, ready to like maybe bump your head as the headlamp is trying to find your way through the caves. So I have Stalactite Saturday, but whatever. Spelunker's really fun too. Spelunker Saturday is great by me.
Spelunker, stalactite, stalagmite, whatever your cave persuasion is, welcome to the Solid Verbal. I'm Ty Hildenbrand.
Yes.
He is Dan Rubenstein. We're going to take you through all the wonders that week 3 has to offer here over the next hour or so. Don't forget, as you watch these games throughout the course of your week 3, come on back and visit with us live at midnight right here on YouTube Live. You can go to solidverballive.com. Many of you are watching this live now as we record the show. If you can't make it this week, don't worry, we'll do it next Wednesday as well. We've got a lot to get through here. My big fear as I went through these games and tried to put together our sheet was I typically will look at the Sharp report, see what the pro bettors, the guys who pay their bills betting,
Correct.
See what they're doing, see where they're placing their money. I disagreed with most of them. Generally a red flag in terms of how my picks are going to do. However, I'm sticking to my guns. Like I said, we're down here with the headlamps on. I think I found some nuggets that I'm excited to reveal to the world.
Look at you. I'm very excited for this. And this is obviously, I typically will look at a weekend without obvious upset potential or without obvious headline potential and say, oh, it's a snake in the toilet Saturday. And I remember seeing that there was an actual story about a spider in the toilet.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, we talked about that, right?
It freaked me out to such a point that I'm going to put off snake in the toilet Saturday until, I don't know, week 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. And I'm going with Spelunker Saturday, Ty, because this one, it's kind of confounding. Where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, you just want to dive in?
I want to dive in.
Dan, Ty, help. I need picks of the week.
As always, our picks of the week are brought to you by verballers.com. That's where you can get the ad-free episodes. That's where you can get the Patreon bonus perks, the bonus episodes that we do, the bonus video content that our friend Jeff Schwartz helps us do.
Scheme stuff, X's and O's. What about the Discord community, Ty? Teaming with enthusiastic college football humans. It's the best.
And, of course, it's where you get access to Run the Board Week 3. So you pick 14 games this week against the spread for an opportunity to win a $100 gift card to
Goldbelly, Ty. Goldbelly, who ships, not a sponsor. We purchased this gift card because we want people to win stuff and be enthusiastic about picking games. Goldbelly ships food from all over the country to all over the country. If you miss a pie from Cincinnati, if you miss barbecue from Texas, and now you're living in Sarasota, do a search. Take a look. There's all sorts of stuff available. It's pretty great.
All you got to do is go to verballers.com. You sign up for any tier, and you'll get access to the game. Play this week, play every week, play as often as you like. We have great prizes every single week. We're encouraging you to jump on in.
Yes.
Okay. It was, I believe, your turn to do the big dogs this week.
Yes.
What's the first big dog game on your radar?
Okay, so big dogs we pick from each window. From the 12 Eastern window, I'm taking Kansas State -5. Well, I don't know if I'm taking Kansas
4.5 now. I think it's 4.5.
4.5. So it's
Yeah.
Kansas State as 4.5-point favorites, traveling to Como to Columbia, Missouri to take on Mizzou. That's the early big dog. Ty, do you want me to go through all 3 big dogs, or are we just going to start there?
We should start with this one because
okay.
there is a theme for me. There is a theme for me with my eventual pick in this game.
Okay.
What is your lean with all things K-State and Mizzou? Because you really like Mizzou, if memory serves. Or you really like K-State, if memory serves.
Yeah. I like Mizzou fine. I don't love Mizzou's offense at this very moment, but I stick with my belief system, if you remember, Ty. I do this throughout the years, and I'm not positive that Mizzou is a terribly difficult place to play because of an especially electric atmosphere or something like that, rowdy fans. I guess it can be at times. But Mizzou, with what I believe to be a good defense, is 5-point dogs. And so far, K-State has not been tested by a worthwhile opponent. All due respect to K-State's schedule. So I go back and forth on this one. K-State beat them comfortably last year with Adrian Martinez, correct?
Correct.
They beat them comfortably last year. Chris Kleiman, 3-0-2 as an away favorite at K-State. It's a 4-touchdown game with Adrian Martinez last year, and Will Howard's better. I wasn't crazy about the offensive line last week. I'm going to take the points. I'm going to take the points with Mizzou. Defense at home. Defense at home as dogs, Ty. It's typically part of my belief system, so I'm sticking with it.
Well, this is the big dog segment, so.
Whoa.
The Yakos, home dog of the week.
Let's go. Right out of the chute.
Okay.
Mizzou, home dog of the week. There are two teams, as you know, that I studied intently in the offseason and the preseason.
Okay.
Because I did the full, like, comprehensive deep dive preview for both of these teams. Other than going 3 and out too much and giving up a few big running plays, Kansas State's been rock solid through 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And Mizzou, meanwhile, they beat Middle Tennessee by 4 points last week, led wire to wire, but a little hairy late. Never really felt in doubt, if we're being honest. But still, you look at the score, you see that. Like, why would I pick Missouri in a game like this?
Agree.
I am on Mizzou plus the points, just like you. I think they can win outright. This is a game that I think features something like 14 punts and somebody ends up winning 27-24. That's the kind of game that this ends up being. And I feel that way because Missouri's defense is good enough to hold down Kansas State. And I think Missouri's offense is starting to very ever so slowly take shape as well. And I think they're good enough to move the ball in Kansas State's defense. This is a game that I remember when we did the Mizzou show back in whenever that was, May. And you and I talked extensively about what this team needed to do to get over the hump. This was one of those games that I said, it's sneaky. It's going to get lost in the shuffle of other big games that take place in week 2 and probably week 4. And week 3, sure, it's not packed to the gills the way other weeks are. But this is a game that I know Mizzou's going to have circled.
Mm-hmm.
They've got momentum now, not just on the field, but in the recruiting game. This, to me, feels like a game that Mizzou's going to go out there and win. They're getting 4.5 now at home. So I don't know if they can ultimately get the dub, but I think they can absolutely keep it within that number. So I'm on Mizzou.
But make a pick. Saying I don't know if they can. Make a pick.
Kansas State 27-24.
Okay.
My official pick.
I think I agree. I think Mizzou loses close because I know I do not trust Eli Drinkwitz with big decisions in a big game that ultimately will swing very tiny margins. So I'm going with K-State here because I obviously trust Will Howard more. I just think it's going to be a very slim win. So I'm with you.
A slim win. Who is your second big dog game?
Okay.
So now we actually, to be
disagreed. Yeah.
To be fully transparent, we did disagree. So maybe we'll do 4 big dogs if you want to. Usually
Okay.
it's just 3. But your selection here was initially the Washington-Michigan State game, correct?
Yes, it was. Obviously, the sort of tenor of that game has changed with Mel Tucker's indefinite suspension. I still am encouraged by Michigan State's early part of the season, and they haven't really played anybody, of course, but they're rushing the passer, and that was a big, big deal that they couldn't do last season. And Noah Kim has been very, very good, again, against below average competition. So I was just exceedingly curious to see what Washington would look like on the road against a tough crowd, against what we had thought might be an improving Michigan State team. I don't know how to look at the distraction of Mel Tucker being suspended and having interim and Mark D'Antonio back in the fight. It's impossible to evaluate.
Yeah.
I just think the number was crazy to think about, and not crazy, but tantalizing to think about, with Michigan State being 16-point dogs at home. So I had this as a big dog.
I have no idea what to make of this game.
Okay.
I don't know what kind of headspace Michigan State's going to be in right now. By the way, 5 o'clock on Peacock, Washington -16 against Michigan State is the official top line here for people playing along at home. I have to believe this week's been an enormous distraction. Some teams rally around that. Some teams don't. It just depends. And usually don't know about it in advance. It's something you talk about after the fact. I think for that reason, I'd stay away from it in terms of actual monetary American dollar bets. But for the purposes of the show here, this is one of the games that you have to pick on Run the Board week 3.
Yep.
Michael Penix, the Washington offense, basically looked like they picked up right where they left off a year ago. And they're probably even better now than they were in 2022. Penix has been bombing it down the field, obviously playing at a Heisman level right now. If you look at the stats, they're pinball numbers. The interesting wrinkle for me, though, is that Michigan State is also doing that. And it doesn't get a whole lot of press. But if you look at my favorite stat, the air yards per attempt, State actually has more per attempt than Washington. And to your point of Noah Kim's look good, they've been trying to stretch the field here. I'm curious to see how Washington deals with that. If anything, we'll get to see another side of their defense to see how they handle a team maybe that tries to stretch the field a little bit more on them than any of the competition they've faced thus far. Boise State certainly did not try to do that. That's not really Boise State's game. So I think I'm going to go Washington minus the number. I don't feel great about it because if not for all of these other distractions that we've had this week with the Mel Tucker stuff, which is, weird and like creepy and like all that stuff that we have to like wade through to get to the football portion of this.
Yeah.
In normal circumstances, I'd probably go points, but given that I just don't know where this team's at on the Michigan State side, I'm going to go Washington minus whatever.
Maybe it's the scar tissue from watching Oregon in Lubbock last week, obviously under much different circumstances because of Mel Tucker's non-involvement with neither Oregon nor Texas Tech. But I'm still going to take points here. I'm going to take points here because it's early on. Obviously, Washington exploded onto the scene. Kalen DeBoer announced, Washington as a big-time program once again last year with that win over Michigan State in Seattle. But I still think it's difficult to win on the road. It's difficult with a big number. And Kalen DeBoer, let me verify this. Last year, 1-3 against the spread as a road favorite. So not a team last year, different team, different story. Every season is its own living, breathing thing, but they were not able to cover last year. So in terms of just that number, I have 34-20 Washington winning this game, not covering.
Not covering. My big dog, the one that we disagreed on, this one's 7 p.m. ESPN. It's Tennessee minus 6.5 against Florida. So I'm taking Tennessee here. I struggled with this one mightily. Everything I read online seemed to indicate that Florida was the pick. A lot of the sharps, a lot of the people who break down advanced numbers, whatnot. I mean, we do that too.
Right.
I was surprised at how many people were going Florida here. I'm picking Tennessee because they're the better team with a good quarterback and a solid defense. And I think that combination is more than sufficient to hold down Florida, to hold down this Florida offense, which I don't know what to make of it through 2 weeks. They look pretty good last week, but obviously that wasn't against a team like Utah or a team like a Tennessee. In order to win, in order to hang with Tennessee, I think Florida needs to run it, and I'm not sure they can really do that against this defense. And that's like my biggest issue with why I'd want to take Florida to win outright to cover the spread at home. My caveat, and the reason that I did struggle with this, really late awake at night, tossing and turning, is Joe Milton. I like Joe Milton. I like that he's been in the system 3 years. I like that he's got a rocket for an arm. But Joe Milton throws every pass with maximum force, Dan. Every pass with maximum force. And it's games like this, when you're Ryan Gosling, Jack to the you-know-whats, against a rival, that's when this type of attribute can get you. That's when you throw a pass a little too hard and you sail it over the middle. That's when you miss a guy streaking down the field. I'm frightened that there is a Joe Milton yip factor that we will come to know, as we did before in a previous life with Joe Milton.
Yeah.
I'm concerned that these are the games where the Joe Milton yip factor comes back into play. They're probably going to win 10 games this year. And I suspect that along the way, we will have 1 or 2 games where they win, but it's a nail biter because of potentially that yip factor.
Okay.
I'm on Tennessee 31-21 here. I'm not at all confident in it, but that is my pick.
I went back and forth on this one. I'm going Tennessee because I think they're the better team. And I just, in a big game, Graham Mertz in this offense, they're just in a place I don't trust them. And betting against that has been quite profitable over these last couple of years. So I understand the difficulty in saying, what has Tennessee truly done this year? You can be seduced by what they did last year, seduced by Joe Milton's arm. I still think they win this game. But Florida's ability to run, despite a Tennessee, what we think is an improved Tennessee defense, an improved Tennessee rushing attack to perhaps control the clock a little bit more than usual, because the passing attack has been sort of up and down early on this year. We saw the slow start against Austin Peay. Whether that's meaningful, whether that's Tennessee just showing the absolute most vanilla of looks against a team they were confident that they could beat ahead of Florida, I'm with you with all of that. But I still think there are more ways for Tennessee to win this game comfortably and to be competitive in this game if they're able to get any amount of stops against Florida on the ground, because that's where Florida is going to succeed. They ran well last year. I anticipate them having a decent rushing attack this year, even though teams are going to stack the box more than ever.
That's what worries me.
That's the word. It's not Anthony Richardson, right? So
right.
He can make you pay. He's Indianapolis now.
Yeah.
I'm going to
go QB1 in Indy.
I'm going to go with you with Tennessee, just because to count on Florida's offense for anything with this passing attack, I think is pretty futile. So I'm going here. I'm going Tennessee. I have them. You have by 10, 31-21 is what you said?
I go 31-21, yeah.
I 27-16.
Okay.
So
I could see that. Low scoring game. That'd be something for Tennessee.
Yeah.
Okay. We do have one more big dog. Normally it's 3. Today it's 4. And we obviously agree on this one. 7:30 ABC. It's Pitt -1 on the road at West Virginia. The backyard brawl.
Yes.
The backyard brawl. I'll be honest here. I was feeling down initially looking at some of the games this week, albeit a Spelunker Saturday, which I'm excited to get down there in the dirt and look for the gems. And then I saw this one and I was like, hey, we got the backyard brawl.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little pick me up, right?
Absolutely. It is. Ton of emotion.
How do you feel about this game?
Can't wait to watch it. Would have liked to go into this game feeling more confident in the Pitt offense after what we saw last week from a kind of disastrous offense at times. So I went back and forth in this one. It's a 1-point spread right now.
1-point spread, yeah.
Pat Narduzzi, 13-2 since 2018 as a road favorite, which is a wild number. That Pitt takes care of business when they're favored on the road for whatever reason. But in this specific matchup, I know it's going against trends. This is obviously a very different team than where they were in 2018, 2019, 2020. I'm going West Virginia here. When I go back and forth, when it's a tight line, I go with the home dog. I go with the energy in a rivalry game, because if this is being looked at as a relatively even matchup, yeah, I'm going West Virginia here. I was impressed with what they did week 1, even though the scoreboard doesn't necessarily reflect it, and I think Pitt is still in transition. Give me West Virginia.
I'm worried Pitt might stink this year.
By Pitt standards or by standards?
By Pitt standards.
So like 6-6 Pitt?
I'm worried they might stink by Pitt standards this year, yeah.
Okay.
That game last week against Cincinnati really spooked me.
That's one game against a real opponent. Yeah.
It's one game. And it's very possible that I underestimated Cincinnati this year because I don't like Scott Satterfield as the coach.
Okay.
That's entirely possible. And it's early, but I've had that in the back of my mind since I saw this matchup. I'm also a little worried that I underestimated West Virginia because to give a little bit of context, based on early projections, which are definitely wrong and will be updated a million times before the end of the year, Pitt's a 4-win team. West Virginia is a 3-win team. So based on projections, these teams are kind of equal. And the reason that I almost favor West Virginia a little bit more is because of what I told you after week 1 against Penn State. The offense actually felt logical to me. It felt like they were playing into their strengths, and they didn't beat Penn State, but it felt to me like there was a greater sense of identity with that offense. Right now, 60% of the bets are on West Virginia. I am running a poll for people who are watching live. 61% of the people watching also favor West Virginia.
Okay.
The sharps are on West Virginia. Again, the people who pay the bills with these bets are on West Virginia, which means obviously I'm staying with Pitt.
Yeah.
I am going against the public and against the people who supposedly know what they're doing. This is probably my last ride with the Pitt Panthers if something goes wrong here.
Wow.
The thing for me that I struggle with is that this is a matchup I think West Virginia can exploit, because for the first time in a while, Pitt's defensive line is a bit of a question mark. And the entire project in Morgantown in 2023 hinges on their ability to run. And I think they can do that here. And I think potentially they could win. That's why this line is only 1 point. But I am going to give it another week with Pitt. I was high on them before the season. I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to say Pitt wins a close one. It's a backyard brawl. Obviously, it's going to be close. Pitt wins 21-17. I don't feel good about it at all. Not at all. But that's my pick.
So early on, Pitt, not great against explosive plays, as in giving them up too often. Not great in the red zone on defense. The pass defense has been okay, giving up a lot of big rushing plays early on. Pass rush has been fine, but yeah, you're right. It could be very much a fruitful day on the ground for West Virginia.
I agree. Okay. Should we get to our early slate?
Let's do it.
Early slate. Okay, early slate. Well, we already borrowed one of the games from the early slate, the K-State Mizzou game, as one of our big dogs. There are a couple other ones here that warrant mentioning. I'm actually kind of surprised you didn't go LSU Mississippi State. This one's at high noon Eastern time on ESPN. LSU is a 9-point road favorite against the Mississippi State Bulldogs, Dan. This game was crazy a year ago. This was a crazy game a year ago. Mississippi State led that one 13-0 late into the first half. From that point forward, LSU outscored them 31-3, including 21 points in the fourth quarter. LSU ended up winning. It was a Jaden Daniels game where he went nuts. They ended up winning this game 31-16. I read a lot of people who are on Mississippi State here. Are you on Mississippi State as well?
I am.
Why?
A double-digit dog because I'm still a believer in some of the pieces on this defense. I thought last week was a weird game, maybe a look-ahead spot because Mississippi State had the success they did against Arizona last year, in Tucson. So there is something about Mississippi State, and I'm just willing to discount last week. A double-digit dog with what I believe still to be a pretty decent defense against LSU, who have done nothing this year, right? And so that line is the line of a team that has earned it somehow this year. And we haven't seen that from LSU. So I'm happy to take double-digit points with an experienced quarterback in Will Rogers who made plays last week. It was just an odd game. Arizona State was able to score points in weird ways. Mississippi State wasn't able to take advantage of opportunities with all those turnovers. I understand you. But I'm just not there with LSU in this moment to have earned that kind of line. So I'm going to happily take those points. I think LSU is the better team. I think, you simulate this game 10 times, 100 times. I think LSU wins an overwhelming number of them. But, yeah, I don't love this line.
Yeah, I mean, it depends where you look. You can still get it 10 in some places. I jotted down 9 here.
Right.
So it's somewhere right around double digits. I'm going to go LSU. Even though that's a lot of points on the road, my concern is that Zach Arnett's offense through 2 weeks has been sort of puzzling.
Yeah.
It's extremely risk averse. I don't know if you watched the Arizona game at all. Very risk averse. Nothing down the field. Do you know how many pass attempts they had against Arizona last week?
No.
A team that notably had trouble defending the pass a year ago. 17. 17 with a veteran quarterback and Will Rogers. They went 17 pass attempts. They asked him in the post game why he didn't throw more against Arizona. I would encourage you to go listen to the answer. It's a word salad. It doesn't make any sense.
Really?
It doesn't make any sense.
Good.
None. So either they were holding something back in anticipation of this game and other big ones to come. They went to overtime. They were lucky to win, but okay. Or I think more probably they're just still figuring this thing out. Zach Arnett.
I think that's true.
He's a new head coach, got the job under horrible circumstances. He's trying to change the scheme on offense. He himself is a defensive-minded coach. It would not boggle the mind if it took a little bit for the project, at least on offense, to take flight.
The Zach Arnett project. Yeah.
Zach Arnett project. I love calling these things projects.
Yeah.
I think LSU is loaded for bear here. I think if Mississippi State tries that same thing against LSU that they did last week, they might score like 13 points. And LSU's got an axe to grind. They've got something to prove now. They know they're behind the 8 ball. In terms of the national conversation, they win 33-18 on the road.
Okay, we disagree. Continue.
Also at high noon, it is on Fox. It is Penn State minus 14.5 against Illinois. You may recall these two teams played 2 years ago, State College. Penn State then was also number 7 in the polls. At the time, they were an even bigger favorite. They're favored by 14.5 this weekend, but 2 years ago, they were a 24.5 point favorite. And that's the game that went to 9 overtimes. Remember the penalty kicks, the 2018 final? Do you think that Brett Bielema has Illinois' act together enough to take down Penn State this time around?
Take down Penn State? No. Cover this spread? Yeah. I love going with these home dogs. I'm taking Illinois because I don't believe a team is what they are in week 1, week 2, showing them at a low point. And I think we're meeting these two teams. These two teams are meeting up with Penn State having not been tested on the road at all, having no experience for Drew Aller starting a game on the road against an Illinois team that still has guys on defense, should still be able to move the ball. We saw the long run from Luke Altmaier last week, be it against Kansas, and the Penn State defense is going to be something different. I'm going to take the points here. I'm going to take the points because I still think going on the road and winning comfortably against at least an okay Illinois squad is difficult. So I think Penn State's the clear better team, but I'm happy to take the points.
Yeah, I think we have a pretty good idea for both these teams right now.
I still think Illinois can muck this up.
They can.
And it's a look-ahead spot for Penn State because they have Iowa, I believe, in State College next week.
That's right, the whiteout game.
Yeah.
The whiteout game at night. I think we have a pretty good idea for what these teams are. We saw Penn State in week 1 over West Virginia. We saw Illinois the last 2 weekends against Toledo and Kansas. I could not be less impressed with Illinois so far through 2 weeks. And in the wise words of David Pollack, it all starts up front.
It all starts up front. Point of attack.
It all starts up front. Illinois' offensive line has been atrocious so far. And I pulled a few stats here that indicate just how atrocious. Luke Altmaier is getting sacked almost 12% of the time he drops back.
Whoa.
He's being pressured 42% of the time he decides to drop back for a pass. And he scrambled on 10% of his dropbacks, which is among the highest in the nation. All things considered, I think he's been fine.
Yeah.
But it's just hard to be consistent when you're running for your life 42% of the time you drop back to pass. And I don't think that's going to improve against Penn State. I don't think they can lean on their defense either the way maybe we expected in the preseason. I recall talking to you about how I felt really good about Illinois' interior defensive line. They've gotten pushed around, dog. They've gotten pushed around by two teams with worse lines and probably worse running backs. All due respect to Devin Neal.
Yeah.
Than Penn State with Katron Allen and Nick Singleton.
Yeah.
Kansas ran for 262 against Illinois. What's Penn State going to do? So I'm with you. I'm not crazy about the point spread. And I know that Penn State has a weird way of playing close in these games. Maybe there is that look ahead factor with Iowa. I don't know. I just don't see it. I think this is something like 38-17 Penn State.
Okay. Totally reasonable. I think I also just take in, especially in these games, that these are the games that every single player playing at home against a clearly better team, more talented team, these are the games you get up for, right? Same goes for Mississippi State against LSU. So maybe it's the unquantifiable, but I think Illinois is going to be, look, the crowd's going to be going crazy. It was almost a big noon Saturday game, right? Until Illinois lost to Kansas. So no, I'm taking that just because I'm a sucker for that home field energy.
Two other quick mentions here in the early window, then we'll get to the afternoon slate.
Yeah.
12 noon Eastern ABC. It's Florida State minus 26 on the road at Boston College. Also on Big Ten Network at high noon, it is Louisville minus 10 against Indiana. You have a lean in either of those games?
Yes, of course I do. I like Florida State huge because I believe Boston College to be nothing but disappointing. And I do not see a way in which they can keep this within whatever it is, 4 touchdowns. So I think Florida State runs wild. Even in a look-ahead spot, I know that, they have Clemson the following week?
Yep.
Big week 4.
Yep.
I think Boston College is ultimate. They're on the level of both Northern Illinois and Holy Cross. That's where we are with this Boston College team, that they're either eking by or losing close. I think Florida State goes big here. I think this team is too big, too deep, and too locked in. How about that?
We've got some folks in the chat saying that BC is dead.
Yeah.
They've looked really bad.
Mhm.
But I will add, this line opened at 28.5 and it's come down to 26. And
Big
I
number.
think there's a look ahead spot. There's almost no reason to take the points here. But on Spelunker Saturday, when you're looking at the slate and you're thinking, where's the excitement? These are the types of games that feature a block punt and special teams weirdness, and miraculously Boston College covers, not wins, but covers 34-17. I'm going BC plus the
Some of these big lines, by the way, you have to take into account that games are moving in a different way because of the new first down rule that the clock keeps going. So some of these bigger lines, like I think Michigan has not covered, we'll get there, against Bowling Green. And so that is one of those things. I don't think Florida State is a deliberate team like Michigan, but when you start getting around 30 and above,
that's a lot.
That's when I don't have the data in front of me to say that teams are covering big spreads more. That is just me personally worrying about those bigger lines when clock is ticking.
Yep. Also, I'm on Indiana plus the 10.
Same.
Give me the Hoosiers.
In Lucas Oil, right?
Yeah, I told you that Indiana would be interesting this year when I did the preview. And okay. I think I wasn't sure of that statement when I made it. Maybe I was inventing a reason to care about Indiana football. But now they've got Ravin Tayven Jackson as a quarterback.
Right.
Tayven Jackson.
Is he official? He's a
starting quarterback. Yeah.
Okay.
6'5", 185, a tall drink of water, a former 4-star recruit who transferred back home to Indiana from Tennessee. He looked really good. I thought he looked really good. And I'm trying not to get too excited. You know, it's Indiana, and I know they got holes all over the field.
You're talking about really good against Indiana State?
Really good against Indiana State.
Okay.
Thank you, Dan. Sure. Thank you, Dan, for pointing out their triumph against the Sycamores, I believe.
That sounds right.
Indiana plus the 10. I love it. I'm trying not to get too excited about it. You'll hear more about this pick later.
Indiana plus the 10. Is there something you don't like about Louisville, or are you just into the enthusiasm of the Hoosiers?
I want to ride the wave. I want to ride the wave of Tayven Jackson. I want to be the first to call him Ravin Tayven.
Okay.
And I want to take the points here.
All right. We agree. I'm with you just because of the defense in this moment. I think it's going to give Louisville a little bit of trouble.
Okay. Let's go to the afternoon, Dan.
Okay.
We already mentioned the Washington-Michigan State game. We borrowed that one for the Big Dogs segment. We've got a handful of games here, many of which have really big point spreads. So for that reason, you got to go out. If you got to be amongst the people, if you got to go to dinner, somebody planned a dinner and you can't get out of it, even if you're stuck at a fall wedding, like right in this time, you can get by not watching these games.
Agree.
You can get by. I'm not advising it. I never do. But you get by. This is your window of opportunity.
Spreads involve Minnesota's offense and Northwestern's offense.
Like Virginia Tech's offense. Like,
yeah.
If you gotta miss,
use some strategy here.
Use some strategy. Because next week's going to be crazy. Next week, you want to make sure you're plopped in front of the TV on the couch, anchored down there, moored to your couch. This is okay. This is okay. 3:30, CBS, South Carolina on the road at Georgia. Georgia favored by 27.5 points. South Carolina's lines against Georgia's lines. Dan, go ahead. You go first.
Okay. I was tempted to take South Carolina. I really was. Okay. Not because I love the Gamecocks here, Ty, and not because I'm out on Georgia for whatever reason, although it is a little bit concerning that the anti-Bobo rhetoric has begun very quickly with Georgia football fans. If there is something about what has this year's Georgia done specifically against a Power 5 team, a quality G5 team, to say they are 4 touchdown favorites against South Carolina, who has a real quarterback. Okay, that's about the whole list I can make about South Carolina in this moment because of the line play. They have good receivers. They have good players. But The North Carolina game spooked me a little, though that's week 1, which I like to discount. I was so tempted to find reasons that South Carolina could cover here, but it almost feels as if South Carolina's front is that cure for the common offense, which is at times what Georgia has put on the field. I think they're going to get things going on the ground. And so I'm going to go with Georgia here to crockpot South Carolina. Maybe it's even 13-7 after the first quarter. Maybe it's 7-all after the first quarter.
One of those
and then
games.
It's 45-13, that kind of thing. So I have Georgia covering this one.
I just think it's so hard for South Carolina to keep this one competitive because of the state of their lines. And they remain a great story for as long as Shane Beamer is willing to be there. And there are certainly pieces of South Carolina that make them an interesting follow. But until we get, I don't know, better line play in a game like this, I think the most we can expect maybe is some special team shenanigans, return kicks, that type of thing. Because he's very good at coaching that. He's very good at coaching that. I don't know how this one's closer than 21. And I agree that 27.5, 28, whatever, feels like a lot. I think it's right around there. I think if you bet actual money on this game, it's going to be a tough watch because I don't think it's going to be Georgia right out of the gates, blowing them out of the water. I would be tempted to take the points here. I don't think it's close, but I think it's like 42-14, somewhere right about that 28 number.
Yeah.
And that will give you the cold sweats if you're putting real money on it.
Yeah, I mean, you're buying into a new offensive coordinator, a bunch of new faces on defense, a new quarterback in Georgia, and there's no reason not to. But there is something that is a little bit of a mystery with this Georgia team because we have not and will not for a good amount of time see them against an actual quality SEC team.
All right. I guess we kind of agree.
Yeah. I'm pretty tentatively agree. I really wanted to take South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm going to take South Carolina plus the points, but I don't feel obviously that confident.
That can be a great watch for you.
Minnesota plus 7.5 on the road against North Carolina. You know, we like to say styles make fights. These are opposite ends of the magnet here.
Mm-hmm.
These are I'm 100% on Minnesota plus the points here. 100%. I thought about making it one of my saucy bets. I thought about making it a lock. I just think they'll make this ugly. I don't think they're good enough to win, but they're absolutely good enough to, as you said with Illinois earlier, muddy it up, make it ugly, do enough to cover the spread. I don't know how, but I think they find a way to do that. I don't trust their offense at all. I don't know what their offense is because in the beginning of the year, it was like, hey, we're going to do a passing offense now. And then last week, they just went full back to what they did previously, and it worked pretty well. So what we get against North Carolina remains to be seen. My suspicion is whatever it is will work because it still is the North Carolina defense, however high on them you are.
Right.
I'm going to go points.
Yeah, I'm going to give those points. I just don't think Minnesota's going to be able to score, even against North Carolina.
You're no fun.
Yeah, I think Minnesota loses this game like 31-17.
3:30 FS1, San Diego State against Oregon State. Oregon State favored by 24.5 points.
Yeah.
Any reason to go San Diego State here?
No, and Oregon State has been especially good at taking care of business, and this is San Diego State playing. Well, they lost comfortably to UCLA. Their offensive line it's pretty atrocious, and I think Oregon State is going to be able to run away with this one pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm on Oregon State. I think the Beavers are blazing their own Oregon Trail, perhaps of revenge this season.
Okay,
I think they're on that journey along with Wazoo.
So far, so good for both teams.
So far, so good. 3:30 Big Ten Network. Please don't watch the Virginia Tech Rutgers game. Please save yourselves.
Yeah.
Don't watch this game. Rutgers is favored by 7, which seems like a lot. Gary, who I know is a loyal Verballer and a Rutgers season ticket holder. I don't know.
Gary Nova? Is Gary Nova who you're talking about?
I don't believe it's Gary Nova.
Might be.
I don't believe it's Gary Nova. But Gary is a Rutgers season ticket holder. If you will be at this game, God help you. I think you have to take points here. I wouldn't want to lay 7 points if I'm a bettor here with Rutgers at home.
Do you know how many points Rutgers has given up this year? 14 in 2 weeks. Rutgers, say whatever you will. They're one of those teams that you lump into the category of taking care of business. And this is another opportunity for Rutgers
man.
at
Come on.
home.
Come on.
Take care. I'm happily giving points.
You're nuts.
Maybe it's just the
You're
New
nuts.
Jersey in me on my family tree, the New Jersey branch.
Okay.
Oh, Rutgers here.
When you put it that way.
Yeah. Defense is taking care of business. Virginia Tech is a school that you can take care of business against whom you can take care of business. How about that?
Speaking of bad teams, we got Northwestern against Duke in this window, 3:30 ACC Network. Duke favored by 18.5.
That's a big number for Duke.
Yeah. I actually don't think Northwestern is a total disaster.
They beat UTEP.
UTEP might be really bad, speaking of disasters.
Bad. Yeah.
Northwestern may not be as bad as I initially thought. And they too, as a team, as a football team, were dealing with some interesting circumstances to start this season. I don't mind the quarterback. I don't mind the skill positions. I hate everything else. And I think Mike Elko is really good at scheming for all the little stuff, all the everything else there. This is something like 31-10. Duke's going to kill him.
I like Duke as well, just because I need more than just interesting skill guys. Maybe I don't even know what Northwestern is in this moment. On the road, they were terrible against Rutgers. At home, they were good against UTEP. Even with the UTEP game, Ben Bryant has something like 3 air yards per attempt.
It's bad. I know.
It's not great.
I know. I'm with you.
I'm going Duke here. I think their act is together, and it's not a look ahead spot. I believe Duke has UConn next week.
And then 4 bigger brand, higher rated teams with really big point spreads. I don't know if you've got a lean on any of these. Western Kentucky going to Ohio State. Ohio State now with Kyle McCord as full-time starter. I don't know if you saw this, but Ryan Day named him the full-timer. Ohio State at home is a 28-point favorite. We've got Notre Dame at home, a 34-point favorite against Central Michigan. Notably, a look-ahead spot perhaps for both Notre Dame and Ohio State. They play in week 4. We've also got Alabama fresh off their loss a week ago to Texas. They're a 32-point road favorite against USF. We've also got Oklahoma minus 27.5 points on the road against Tulsa. A lean on any of those games, Dan?
I have all the favorites. The Western Kentucky one worries me a little bit because they have a real quarterback and they have a difficult system. But I think it's a net crack opportunity for Ohio State. I think they're going to run directly at the Toppers and run away, quite literally run away with this one. I have Notre Dame big because Central Michigan has been disappointed. And when you can run like Notre Dame does, I just think you're going to blow a team out that can't stay on the same field. I have Alabama getting back into business against USF, who has been especially atrocious on defense this year. And I have Oklahoma big against Tulsa in the transition year under the first year with Kevin Wilson. I think they also are just going to be able to move the ball at will against Golden Hurricane.
I've got Western Kentucky plus the 28.
That was the tempting one. Yep.
Yeah. I've got that one. I've also got Central Michigan.
Wow.
Plus the 30. I expect it's going to be a lot of backups in Notre Dame trying to keep everyone healthy.
Okay.
Which is why I wouldn't want to lay the 34, whatever it is. There is a pretty good chance that Alabama rips off the arms and legs of USF.
Limb from limb.
Yeah, we had a zombie Alabama sound that I will play after they win this game. I'm not going to jinx it by playing it in advance. My actual lock of the week this week.
Lock of the week.
My actual lock of the week with that in mind is Alabama minus 19.5 in the first half of this game.
The first half.
In the first
half.
Right out of the gate. Because, and you know it, if you're listening to this at home, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When you look at the scoreboard and you see at halftime, there is a runaway train game going on. I think Alabama is going to destroy
49-3 at the half. Yeah.
It's going to be some sort of ghastly number at halftime, and then they'll fall on the ball in the second half.
Okay.
And then they'll fall on the ball. So Alabama minus whatever, they'll cover 32. They will definitely cover 19.5 at halftime. That is my lock of this week.
Fair enough.
And you'll hear about that Oklahoma game too, as we get a little bit deeper on into this.
I like that.
Into this here show. Should we get to our night window?
Please.
Let's get to the night games, Dan. 7:30 SEC Network, Georgia Tech squaring off against Ole Miss. Ole Miss now a 19. You hear me? 19-point favorite. We had Ole Miss last week taking care of business on the road at Tulane in rather impressive fashion. And they are now a healthy favorite here against Georgia Tech. Again, 1-9. 1-9er. That is not a surprise, I guess, because they're a much better team than Georgia Tech.
Right.
My concern, though, is the look-ahead factor. I am concerned about the look-ahead factor for Ole Miss because they've got Bama and LSU on deck in weeks 4 and 5.
I think it's a letdown look-ahead sandwich because that was a close game against Tulane and their backup quarterback. And then you're right with the look-ahead stuff. So I like Georgia Tech here, even though they lost this game.
Sandwich.
I'll play the sound.
So hungry. I'm so hungry.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. 42
Let's go
to
look-ahead
nothing.
sandwich.
42 to nothing was last year's score. Ole Miss against Georgia Tech. I think it's a new Tech. I think Haynes King is fine. Didn't play against Ole Miss. I don't think has ever played against Ole Miss. Memory serves, has been beat up. So I'm going Georgia Tech here. I think they've been pretty disciplined. They haven't committed a ton of penalties this year, if memory serves. So I'm going to go with the Jackets, not outright, but to lose relatively competitively.
I think this could be one of those games that's right on the number.
Okay.
Like 38-17. I think I used 38-17 already, but that's my favorite score of week 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something like that. I'm going to take the points because I think Tech's got some juice this year. I do. You said it in week 1, and I stand by it. They played up in week 1 against Louisville, and, different beasts this time around against Ole Miss, granted. But it just seems like this is Brent Key's MO to play up in these games. And I think they cover. I think Ole Miss wins, but I think it's closer than that number. Never really in doubt, but let's make it a different number. Let's say it's 38-24.
Okay.
Ole Miss wins, but Georgia Tech covers.
I'm with you. I'm right there. I think it's about a 2-touchdown game.
Let's go to 8 p.m. on Fox. It is TCU minus 7.5 on the road at Houston. No idea what to make of Houston. Beat UTSA in week 1 on a defensive effort. Lost in week 2 to Rice and gave up 43 points.
Mm-hmm.
This is me shrugging. I don't know. Dana Holgerson's MO is not quality defense. It's never been.
Whoa. He said okay defense. This is a couple years ago at Houston, I believe. He had a good Tony Gibson defense at West Virginia, but there have also been disasters. Yeah.
They've been mostly disastrous.
Yeah.
When you think of Holgo, you don't think of defense.
Correct.
What do you expect in this game? I play the shootout sound because I feel shootout here because we saw TCU's defense on display. We obviously saw Houston's last week on display. To me, it feels like a lot of points, close game. Houston getting 7.5 points. That to me feels like a good play in a shootout. You know my rule, but where are you at?
All we did ahead of week 1 is say, don't take week 1 results seriously. They lose a shootout to a Colorado team that we think is pretty good. And I think collectively we've decided to start ignoring TCU. I still think TCU will be fine this year. Okay? I am much more worried about Houston after last week and what they did losing to Rice. JT Daniels is a real quarterback. Luke McCaffrey,
Sir,
is a real college football player, and they have a nice little duo. I don't think Rice is all that good. I was disappointed with the result for Houston. I think TCU is just a better team. I think TCU has more ways to win. When you have the talent advantage that TCU does, I think they have a bigger room to improve here. So I'm going to go with the Frogs on the road to comfortably beat Houston. 13, 15 points, something in that range.
Okay. Well, we've got a bunch more games here. Before we get there, just a few quick reminders.
Yes.
If you have yet to subscribe to the podcast, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Go out to Apple, go out to Spotify, go out to Google, go out to any of your podcast apps, subscribe, follow the audio version of this. It helps us. It allows us to keep doing this here live stream.
Yes.
That is how we keep the lights on. So make sure you go out there and do that. If you're already subscribed or you're already following, please leave us a 5-star rating or leave us a sparkling review. That helps other people find the show. We would appreciate that very much. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I think we reminded you of that at the top, but please make sure you do that. Again, all of this stuff helps. We also want to remind you about our newsletter, solidrebel.com/newsletter. It is free. It is not intrusive. We send you an email every Friday around noontime to keep you up to speed with things that you missed in the college football world. Make sure you do it. Again, all these things help support what Dan and I do here.
Yeah, and even listen, I'll tell you this, Ty, about the the Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, wherever you're going to leave a review. If you like the show and you disagreed with one of my picks and it turns out I was wrong, let me know in your sparkling 5-star review. Love the show, even though Dan took TCU and they got destroyed by my Houston Cougars or something like that. Make a point of letting us know where we were wrong in our picks as you discuss how much you like the show otherwise. How about that?
I like it. I like it. Kill us with kindness. As
exactly right.
7:30 ESPN2 BYU. Big 12 newcomer on the road against Arkansas. Arkansas is an 8.5 point favorite, Dan, not 9.5. As I jotted down on the doc that I sent you a couple days ago, it's now 8.5. You got no Rocket Sanders in this game for Arkansas. He's still dealing with the knee that he injured back in week 1. I like Arkansas. I don't like the spread. I think this is a slower paced game with two teams that are taking about 30 seconds on average per play, which is slow. Mm-hmm. I actually really like the under here.
Okay.
The over-under is 51. I really like that under because these are two teams that are going to play slower. I think Arkansas wins. I think it's sort of sloggy and close. I don't know, 23-20.
Okay.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Man, these teams play so slowly that one of the starting quarterback's name has the word slow right there in his name, Keaton Slovis. I'm going to take the points just because I kind of hate the matchup in the moment with where Arkansas's offense is in terms of disappointing, and they've been sort of out of rhythm early on, which is strange considering how long the coach has been there, how long KJ Jefferson has been there. I know they made a change at offensive coordinator and it hasn't really gone to plan. But no, I think it's a relatively ugly game. And in those, I like taking points.
7:30 NBC, Syracuse. The Cuse is loose, minus 2.5 on the road at Purdue. Syracuse has won their first two games by a combined 113-7 score.
I think Syracuse is going to comfortably win this game. I think the way you beat Syracuse is still running directly at them. Purdue struggles to run directly at anybody. So I'm going Cuse.
Yeah. Garrett Schrader's look good.
Yeah. They played all of nobody, to be clear. But
excuse me. Colgate and Western Michigan, sir.
Yeah.
Put some respect on.
Super impressed.
My concern is that Aronde Gaston Jr. is probably out.
It's okay.
And I have not seen official word. He was in a boot and on crutches after an injury last week in the first quarter, which is not good for their offense. Also, the Cuse offensive line has not been good. Against teams that it should be much better against, it has not been good. This is a rematch from a game a year ago. I don't know if you remember this game. I believe I took Syracuse. I forget what the point spread was, but it was one of my picks that I really liked back in week 3 a year ago. And this had a wild fourth quarter.
Yeah.
This was that game where they just kept running the length of the field one way.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy.
My sense had like 200 yards.
It was stupid. Yeah. It was a stupid game. My sense is that Cuse is better. Like you said, there's all a very long way of saying exactly what you said. I'm going to take him in this matchup. I'm not confident, but Cuse minus the number.
Next game.
2 other games here, and then we'll get to the after dark window, and then we'll put a bow on this here show. We've got at 7:30 on Big Ten Network, Bowling Green, a 40.5 point dog against Michigan.
I'm going Falcons. Continue.
That's a
Michigan's not covering. They're playing slowly and yanking starters, just as you were talking about Notre Dame. I'm going with BG.
And at 8 p.m. on Longhorn Network, it is Wyoming versus Texas. Texas favored at home, 28.5 points. So that's a big number coming off a big win.
I'm going Wyoming to at least ugly this up enough and lose this game by 3 touchdowns, 17-21 points.
Wyoming likes to run.
Yes.
And I could see them slowing this game down, which makes 28 harder to get.
They're not going to be able to throw the ball that well. So I hope they can run. It's going to be tough.
I'll go Wyoming as well. The double night window here. Pac-12 After Dark, if you will. 10 p.m. ESPN2, Colorado State against Colorado. Colorado is a 23.5 point home favorite. And then at 10:30 on FS1, it's Fresno -3 on the road against ASU. 23 is a lot.
It's a rivalry game, so it's not a look-ahead spot for Colorado, even though absolutely, if you're a Colorado player or fan or coach, you certainly have Oregon and USC, who I think they have in the coming next couple weeks.
Yeah. This is another week 4 potentially look-ahead spot.
Right.
I know you say this is rivalry, you're not wrong, but week 4 and 5 for Colorado is sort of where the rubber meets the road, because Oregon in week 4 and then USC in week 5.
There's a really good opportunity for Colorado State to play spoiler here. If Colorado State were just decent, if they were just okay, and I think this game's usually in Denver, I want to say. It's pretty rarely at one of the home stadiums. That would be an interesting, like, oh man, they're not even the best team in their own state kind of opportunity for me. Yeah. But I don't see it. I think there's too much firepower still for Colorado. So I'm a believer in this moment that they're going to win this game comfortably.
I'm on Colorado. I'm also on Fresno over ASU. I think ASU is hot garbage. I think they are garbage. And I like Jaden Rashada a lot.
I like Elijah Badger. There's pieces for ASU that I still like and enjoy watching, but the line play is not there at all.
The line play is not there at all. They're still figuring it out. I really like Kenny Dillingham. I didn't like the hire when they made it. I've liked it more with each passing day.
Okay.
I think he is the right guy. I just think it's going to take a while because that program was not in a great spot. So I'm on Fresno here.
What's the line again?
Line is 3. I want to come back on the airwaves on Saturday night. Again, solidverballive.com. Come right back here. We do our recap for week 3 live at midnight. I want to come back on the air at midnight, and I want to make it a Keen cast again, like we did.
Keen cast.
Yeah. Mikey Keen cast like we did in week 1.
Do you want to know something about the weather on Saturday?
Oh, no.
In Tempe?
Is there a thing?
Well, it's looking like it's going to be above 100 degrees. It's going to be 104 degrees. Yeah, that's what the forecast is. So kickoff time is what? Local.
Kickoff time is 10:30 Eastern. So 7:30
local.
Yeah.
It's going to be about 94 degrees. Not a lot of humidity. It is the desert, but it's going to be stanky on that field, Ty. I like Fresno as well.
Heat. It's a dry heat, Dan.
I know. That just can change the complexion of the game. Obviously, the Arizona schools don't get to play at home during the day in September. As far as I know, I thought that was a rule. So I'm glad it's at night, but it's still going to be toasty, Ty.
That is all we have for week 3. I think it's a good week. I don't care what the more prominent media voices have to say. I don't care.
Ty, you are the most prominent media voice, though, so that's where I disagree.
People
with you.
even more prominently than me. I don't care what they say. I got the headlamp on. We're digging here, down in the caves, man, finding those gems.
We've got Texas Tech playing Tarleton State. We've got Oregon, Hawaii, South Alabama taking on Oklahoma State. I still think South Alabama is frisky. UNLV Vanderbilt. I don't know if you should watch that, but if you do watch it, let us know how it goes. It's on CBS Sports Network.
I won't be watching that, but if you want to, go right ahead.
Nebraska, Matt Rule going for their first victory against NIU, who have already taken down a Power 5 team, Ty. That's in Lincoln. Auburn, Samford, UCF, Villanova. We got Virginia, Maryland Friday night. That's a little bit saucy, an old ACC matchup.
Virginia looked really bad.
They were feisty on offense. I don't know if that same quarterback Calandria is playing against Maryland, but I thought that was promising. No?
Yeah, I
can't convince you of that. App State, East Carolina. Yeah.
We did the rewatch, by the way, over on Verballer Discord, which you can visit if you don't want to do like the full commitment here. If you go to solidverbal.com/Discord, you can take your unofficial visit to our Discord. Otherwise, just go to verballers.com and sign up, and then you could take part in these Tuesday rewatch alongs that we've been doing. We did Colorado TCU in week 1 or after week 1. And then we did JMU against Virginia last night, doing this again on Wednesday at noon. So we'll pick a game from this coming weekend that is out on YouTube that we can rewatch as a group and do that again on Tuesday nights. But it's been great fun. And it was good to see Virginia and watch that game in a little bit more detail. I'm still not crazy about them, but I would be inclined to go Maryland minus the number 14.5.
You've got Ohio hosting Iowa State. Curtis Rourke came back from injury. They beat FAU last weekend. Wake Forest at ODU. That sounds a little bit spicy. That's a nooner on ESPN2. Liberty Buffalo. I don't think I have anything else. But if you can, Ty, my favorite is, can you please drop that big, stanky, wriggling, entangling.
Oh my God.
Drum and fife.
Oh, baby, oh, baby, 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 baby.
Is it Ivy Pat week?
I think it's Ivy Pat week. Yeah.
All right.
Got at high noon, Holy Cross against Yale.
Holy Cross
here.
Holy Cross big.
Holy Cross big.
Big pizza matchup, though. New Haven, come on.
Is it?
Well, I mean, New Haven's a classic pizza place.
Right.
Yeah.
12 noon Eastern time, Cornell against Lehigh. I'm going Nelly's here.
Nelly's big.
Yeah.
Is this our first Pat League matchup of the year?
No. What do you mean?
Excuse me. I was thinking Bucknell. Never mind. Cornell, not a Pat League team. Continue.
All Nellies look the same to you, eh?
No, I'm going the Nellies from the corn Nellies.
12:30, Stone Hill versus Georgetown. Is this game being played in multi-sport field? Forget it. Georgetown. You got to go Georgetown, right?
Yeah.
12:30, Columbia versus the Yetis of Lafayette. I think we're a Yeti show, aren't we?
We're going heavy Lafayette here.
Yeah.
Next.
And finally, 1 p.m., it is Pennsylvania against the aforementioned Colgate Gators.
Man, this one's tough. I was deep in the lab late last night looking over this one. I think I'm going to go Colgate here. I think I'm going to go Colgate. I don't trust the Quakers in this spot.
I'm going UPenn because when we had some issues with the pup's eyes couple months back, we took her down to Penn and they brought her eyesight back. So if they can do that, they can beat Colgate.
I don't
obviously.
know. If Penn is looking for a win, I just don't trust things in Pennsylvania searching in this exact moment. It has not been a great week, although they got the guy. They got the prisoner.
They did get him. Yeah.
It has not been a great week for Pennsylvania searches.
That is a fair statement.
You didn't think I was going there, did you?
I didn't think you were going there.
We are.
It's been, yeah.
You got him like 4 hours ago, right? 5 hours ago?
Yeah. Take the points on that one.
Take the points.
Take the points. We're not done yet.
Ty versus the world.
Die Welt, le monde, el mundo, Sekai, świat. Ty versus the world.
Presented by DraftKings Sportsbook.
Daniel, every week we come on the airwaves here and we give our picks for the week ahead. And then we circle back at the end, do a little Ty versus the world action. I give you saucy bets and then I give you a themed bet.
Yeah.
What I would encourage you to do is go with my saucy bet, with my Alabama minus 19.5 first half bet. Go with my Mizzou plus 4.5 bet that I gave right at the top of the show. Mizzou, my home dog of the week. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. You like that pick? How do you feel about that pick?
Mizzou home dog of the week?
Yeah. Just Mizzou in general.
Oh, I mean, I don't like this offense at all. And that's what worries me, that Will Howard is an actual good quarterback who should be able to score 30 points against 99% of teams in college football. But I don't know. I still don't love where the Kansas State offensive line is in this moment. It's hard to judge. Kansas State hasn't played anybody. So I like the pick because there is something about like that first real taste of action that worries me a little bit about taking Kansas State on the road here. So I like the Mizzou pick by default there.
And then Indiana. Indiana plus the 10. I'm all in on Ravin Tayven.
Okay.
Plus 10 and a big matchup against Louisville.
I mean, you don't know anything. That's the thing. Like, it's very easy. I almost called this Seduction Saturday. I changed my mind because the song I found was borderline problematic. But there is something about Indiana as a dog that is very attractive.
And then we've got something here that you and I collaborated on. I mean, I made the picks. You gave it the name. The Crispy Crimson Parlay.
I like it.
It is a combination of 4 props between Oklahoma and Alabama, 2 Crimson teams. Oklahoma, alternate spread, minus 20.5 points against Tulsa. Also, Oklahoma over 41.5 team points. In addition to those 2 Oklahoma picks, We've got Alabama minus 30.5 alternate point spread, combined with Alabama over 48.5 points. So again, Oklahoma minus 20.5, scoring more than 41.5 points. Alabama over 48.5 team points and covering a 30.5 point spread.
I think I like them.
Crispy Crimson parlay.
The crispy. I like the Alabama. You said has Ole Miss the following week, right?
That's correct.
So I think they want to get their offense right after what they were not able to show against Texas last week. The Oklahoma one is a little bit scarier to me because their schedule gets a little bit more real, and I don't know if they want to tighten up thing, or like, you know what I mean? Like they want to get players off the field if they get a little bit of a lead. I think they're at Cincinnati the following week, so right. Their schedule gets a little bit more real after a relatively soft opening. So I think I'm okay with it, but I'm less confident in the Oklahoma side of that parlay. But I appreciate the crispy crimsonness of it all.
Dan, football is more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Sign up with code SOLID. New customers can bet just $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, with code SOLID. Dan, the crown is yours.
Ooh. Thank you.
Don't forget, folks, go on out to verballers.com and play Run the Board Week 3 for a $100 Gold Belly. Is that the name?
Gold Belly. Yeah, GOLDBELLY, not a sponsor. We purchased this just because we like having cool prizes for you. Ty, is there somewhere in this country you would order food from that you can't normally get?
I would order probably some grilled stickies from State College.
Oh my God. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. If you know, you know. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You don't know everything about food on this show.
I know. I definitely don't. That's why I'm asking you.
I'll send you a picture after this.
Okay.
It's too much to
I don't know if
they
ship. I hope they do.
Yep. If they don't, we'll figure out a way to do that next time. Okay. But go on out, verballers.com, sign up, play in the game, tell your friends, come and play in the game. You can play against us. You can play against hundreds, if not thousands of verballers who are giving their picks every week. You pick 14 games. It's great fun. While you're there, while you're signed up, you also get access to all of the bonus perks that we offer over on our Patreon. And certainly at a minimum, make sure you hit subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you hit subscribe to the podcast. And if you were ever so inclined, leave us a star rating or review, Dan.
Oh my God. Grilled stickies look tremendous. It's like a combo of a sticky bun and a cinnamon roll, Ty.
That's right, baby. That's right. For that guy over there, my good friend, Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildebrandt. Enjoy your Spelunker Saturday. We will talk to you in a few short days. Stay solid.
Peace.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See dkng.co/football for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply.